I have a problem. You see, I love eating food, and I'm very thick because of it. That's actually not the problem. The real problem is that I love Korean food, but sadly, these restaurants keep closing down in my city and get replaced with dumb stuff like coffee shops and Italian restaurants. I could go visit my parents, but For 30 years, I've avoided my family's country, but now I am left with no choice. It's time to fly back to the motherland, which is known for their strong culture, global music dominance, and yes, their food. And ultimately ask myself, is Korea food in Korea actually better, or is America's version just far superior? Now let's speedrun the 16-hour flight. We first embark onto Dongdaemun district. As our very first meal, we decided to tackle a food stand because conveniently, it was the only thing open at 7 a.m. What's great about here is that you can see the food being cooked right in front of you. They have a very simple menu here, which mainly consists of bread, cheese, meat, and cabbage. Once we acquire food, I scarf it down like a starving child because the plain food sucked butt. Overall, excellent start to the trip.
How's your first Korean breakfast?
A few blocks away, we go to 7-Eleven to acquire two important items. Now, there's a few differences between a Korean 7-Eleven and an American one. You'll mainly find Korean snacks here as expected, but they'll still house some more Western snacks just in Korean. They also have a large ramen selection, pre-packaged foods, microwaves, and BTS lip balm. Our first purchase was a beverage called Pocari Sweat. Not the best name, but it's pretty much their version of Gatorade. But more importantly, we acquired subway cards, which if you didn't know, is the main form of transportation in Korea. And I'll just say, as someone who rode a giant cesspool known as New York City's subways, riding in Korean transit was just a whole new different world. But more on that later. After some walking, we hit up another Korean food stand offering quite a selection. Now, even though I am Korean by blood, my Korean speaking is that of a 5-year-old. So with my barely comprehensible Korean, I was able to successfully obtain a Korean corn dog. Now this puts American hot dogs to shame. In the States, all we get is a wiener wrapped in cornbread with a little squirt of Heinz ketchup. In Korea though, they treat you good there with a crunchier shell, potato pieces, sugar, and mozzarella cheese to really enrich the flavors. Ooh, you know this had your boy creaming. We did some shopping afterwards and stumbled upon some Pokemon merch, which initially I thought was pretty cool, and I decided to buy some special chopsticks, but later found out that this is actually made in China. We went to 7-Eleven again for another bev, and the most interesting thing caught my eye: a nameless water bottle. So you know your boy had to get it for science. I thought it was like a super secret bottle with a unique flavor, and to my surprise, it was just water.
It tastes a little thick.
Now we get to our first experience with the Korean subway system. It's as simple as swiping your train card to start, and just like me, these bad boys come quick. And once you step inside, it's just pristine. No trash, no crazy people, and everyone's just super quiet and to themselves. We then get dropped off at Gyeongbokgung Palace, which have some old Korean temples. This was pretty cool as we get to see a piece of Korean history here. Right outside the palace, we go to a local coffee shop. What I like about this place is that it still keeps the same vibe and aesthetic as a temple. I ended up getting an orange drink, which was good, but the weirdest part of the experience was seeing a statue right next door. Like I don't even know. Shortly after, we stop at CU, which is a 7-Eleven equivalent. I decided to get some onigiris, which are basically rice balls, and I swear, every time I try to open one of these, I always botch it unwrapping. But the snack was pretty solid. Could use more meat. We keep up with the historical theme and traverse through old Korean neighborhoods. I enjoyed going through these alleyways as I always to see these things in Korean dramas. So it was awesome to actually see it in person. Later that night, we hit up dinner at a dakgabi spot, which is basically a chicken stir-fry joint. Now what's different with Korean restaurants is that your utensils are not on the table, but instead tucked into a drawer on the side, which makes it more convenient. Food was amazing here. I love the cheese on the rice and chicken. It was a little spicy, but the cheese helped balance it. We had our first soju of the trip here, and this was my favorite place at this point, and it only gets better from here. Kinda. Right next door, we go to a dessert spot in the form of Korean shaved ice. We decided to go with a tiramisu flavor. The dessert had great presentation, but I feel like it could have used a little more flavor. I tasted more ice than chocolate. Then I had to take a shit. But what's great about Korean bathroom stalls is that they completely cover you all the way to the bottom. Unlike American public bathrooms, where there's always this big crack, and I feel like someone can peep through. Sadly, this does prevent me from trying to reach my neighbor's leg. Next morning, we get hotel breakfast, which I ate way too much of, but it was because I was excited for my next stop at the Kimchi Museum. And if you don't know, kimchi is one of Korea's national dishes. It's usually a red fermented cabbage that pairs well with a lot of Korean dishes, which added a lot of excitement for this visit. It was actually crazy with the level of details in this museum just for one single Korean dish. Like some of these whack models look so good that you can eat them. There was this game towards the end with like PS1 graphics that I didn't really understand. The tour ends visit my favorite spot, the kimchi room, where you can taste different types of kimchi, like whole cabbage, ripe persimmon, stir-fried, and vegan. I love when tours of museums actually let you interact with them. It helps you appreciate the whole experience.
Kimchi's an acquired taste, and it's usually sour and very crunchy.
My fiance didn't try any because she's white, but that's okay.
Oh, no, thank you.
We spent the rest of the day trying to find random food spots that caught our eyes, like this tea house that had refreshing cold drinks, this dessert spot that we went to just for this cute little bear that we had unfortunately decapitate, a food stand where we got gimbap, which is Korean hand rolls, and these were very good.
Great combo of softness from the rice and crunchiness from the vegetables.
But finally, after all these foreign snacks, I was finally able to find home once again. Now, I've always seen videos online of people trying McDonald's in other places, and it was always wild to see how different each one of them was. So I had very high expectations for the Korean one. We ended up getting a few items, with the most unique item being the bulgogi burger, which is basically a Korean barbecue burger. The fries and drinks were the same thing you would get at home, and for the burger, it kind of just tastes like sausage and could have used more flavor. Next door, we hit up the Line Friends store, which weirdly enough is a text messaging app that has very cute and marketable characters. They had merch of their mascots everywhere, and even the minions dressed up as BTS. But the thing that caught my eye was the gacha toy section, and just by looking at this, we already had some targets in our sight. We were aiming for the watermelon Kirby and a Mewtwo figurine. We first tried Pokemon. It was expensive, so we only had enough to do one. And inside, we ended up with Greninja. Not my first choice, but hey, I'll take it. Now for the Kirbys. Our first attempt, we were able to obtain King DDD in sand, which is funny because I didn't know that was one of the options. Attempt number 2, Ice Cream Kirby. Not exactly what we're looking for. And with only a few bucks left, we give it one more whirl, and we got it. So cute. To celebrate, we hit our first Korean barbecue place. Honestly, it tasted on par with Korean barbecue I get at home, but still a very satisfying meal. We then cool off at a very unique cafe. The place is themed around sheeps, and they literally have some walking around the front. But what's cooler is how the bathroom system works. Just hear me out. First off, the bathroom is not even in the cafe. You have to go somewhere else to find it, but not before you grab a giant sheep plush and toilet paper, neither of which made sense to me at the time, so I only got one square piece. You then walk down a creepy basement until you're meted with locked bathrooms, only to find the sheep plushie to be the literal key to get to the bathroom. And once you step in, you find the bathroom. Except there's literally no toilet paper. And at that point, I realized they were making you get toilet paper at the very beginning. So your boy struggled a bit. Now that I've emptied out my bowels, I decided to get another corn dog. Our last adventure during our first stop in Dongdaemun was going to North Korea, or at least from a distance. We went on a DMZ tour that started bright and early. Now they had some really strict rules on what we can or can't be filmed, but we were able to get a good shot of North Korea on the other side. Looks like an old footage film. For the last stop of the DMZ tour, they took us to an ice cream spot that sold a very interesting flavor, soybean ice cream. Now I know that sounds disgusting on paper, but it was actually better than expected and would recommend.
Not as sweet as regular ice cream, but tastes healthy in a good way.
We departed from the first leg of our Korea trip to the next exciting destination, which required us to fly over. But before we get there, I have a confession. And it's that I hate sitting with the commoners on these flights. My juicy thunder thighs can't even fit in the seats. So much so that I bought my first ever first class tickets, baby. Let's go. We got access to a nice airport lounge, which mainly served drinks like this pea water and a pouch of water. Okay, let me get the elephant out of the room, because I know some of you have already noticed I have a giant pimple on my nose that started out small but grew enormously over time, and I'm genuinely afraid to show you what it looks like in the end. This is super ironic because I am Korean, I am in Korea, literally the #1 country in the world for skincare. I even bought a bunch of skincare products during my trip, and it still did nothing. Anyways, back to happy stuff. It is finally time to board our flights, and I am not exaggerating when I say this, but this was literally one of the best experiences I've had in my life. The amount of legroom I had felt infinite. Bro, you could even recline the chair all the way, and I just know those filthy economy people are suffering. Full transparency, the flight was only like $100, so it was well worth it. I just wish I could experience this for my full flight back home, which is actually, let me see. Oh, now we arrived to our second destination of the trip, Jeju Island. The first thing we were greeted with are these statues, which act as guardians of the island. Once that's done, we joined a tour of the island. We then walked through an old town with huts and saw some familiar looking statues. They let us play a game of ring toss with the locals. To my surprise, I actually got the highest score and got awarded with these cute little things. Now for the first meal of the island. Jeju is known for having black pigs and serving a dish known as black Jeju pork. The meal was accompanied by various side dishes, and sadly the pork itself wasn't black. But the food did slap very hard and reminded me of home. One thing special here is that they provide you a drink called makgeolli, which is Korean rice wine. I've never had this drink, but it was surprisingly sweet and goes down smoothly. After stuffing ourselves, the tour took us to a 1,000 step hike. Yeah, this was pretty brutal. And there were many times where I wanted to turn back on this, but I had to persevere. We were eventually rewarded with a pretty decent view at the top, but something more exciting was waiting for us at the bottom. You see, Jeju is well known for the tangerines on the island. You'll see some tangerine trees, snacks, and even merch. To keep with the theme, they also had tangerine ice cream, which was extremely sweet, but very refreshing after a long hike. The ice cream is so good here that even the statues love it. The last stop of our tour took us to Moai heaven. It was an endless sea of these little fellas, and they even showed us the first Moai ever. The next day, we traveled on our own and did some side quests, like looking at these horse lighthouses, stopped by a dessert spot that had the biggest souffles I've ever seen. Absolutely love the way they jiggle because it reminds me of myself a lot. Went to another Korean barbecue place that only sold pork, but despite the lack of variety in the meats, this was probably my favorite Korean barbecue spot. Everything just tasted so juicy, and there was a nice kimchi stew to accompany it. God damn, it's getting worse. We did some walking for a bit, but not much interesting happened, except when I found this cat giving me the middle finger. We stopped by the small restaurant that has some of the best Korean soup dumplings I've ever had. They were very plump and the broth was very refreshing. Then we went to one of my favorite places of the entire trip. It was a Korean fried chicken hole in the wall. We decided to go here because of the glowing reviews, but did not realize how small of a place it was. It felt intimidating but comforting at the same time. Now in Korea, the best way to have your fried chicken is to pair it with beer. I originally wanted a glass of beer, but I guess my broken Korean was misinterpreted by the server and they gave me an entire pitcher instead. So after drinking several glasses of this delicious beer, we received our chicken, which was absolutely phenomenal. Extremely crispy with a nice soy sauce coating on top. By far the best fried chicken I've ever had. After developing a beer belly, we then fly one more time to our third and final stop, Gangnam. I would play the actual song here, but I don't want the video to get taken down. Now, Gangnam is known to be more of an affluent city, which can be seen through things like their supersized COEX mall. They got really cool stuff in there, like this library, which I've seen all over TikTok. We didn't have any specific plans in this mall until a goddamn Animal Crossing theme aquarium. I couldn't believe it. There was a limited time collaboration the mall was doing with Animal Crossing, and we just had to go and see what it was about. Now, what makes this experience unique is that they give you a booklet where you need to collect all the stamps of different Animal Crossing characters throughout the whole aquarium. So it became a neat little scavenger hunt. And you know your boy had to take a picture of the squad. We were actually very surprised with how thorough this aquarium was. Not only with how many exhibits they had, but with how much time and care they gave towards the Animal Crossing element. I used to love going to these type of things when I was little, so I couldn't help but just smile through the whole experience. After collecting all 7 stamps, you receive a final award at the end, in the form of a sticker sheet. Now, it's not the most exciting reward, but honestly, the whole experience with the fun characters made it all worth it. For our first meal here, we went to this Michelin star Korean barbecue place, which we had high expectations for given the status they have. They provide a wide selection of entrees and side dishes. The food wasn't bad, it kind of just fell short of what we were expecting given how expensive everything was. I've had better for far cheaper. The next day, we go to a hair spa, which is really interesting because I've never done anything like this before. It was actually quite relaxing, but the craziest thing is that they show you a before and after picture of your scalp. We hit up another dakgalbi place getting similar food, and it was just as good as the first place. No complaints. After that, we went to go eat some katsu, which I know it's not Korean, but honestly, some of the best katsu I've had. We went to another dessert spot, which had a really unique way of displaying their menu items.
They had this one that looked like a bar of soap with a gun on it, which is interesting.
We got an assortment of stuff, but the highlight were these mini croissants, with the black ones being made out of squid ink.
A little too weird for me, tasted kind of fishy.
Upstairs from the cafe was a giant Kazuya statue that was about to fist a lot of smaller folks, like they're doing a Pokemon raid boss battle. To walk off all the food, we went to a place called K-Star Road, which had a lot of these cute bear statues, with each one representing a different K-pop group. Sadly, I never found BTS, and the weather was just dreadful that day. Afterwards, we stopped by a convenience store to gather a variety of ingredients to try and make a fun drink that I've seen online. Combined together makes a decent fruity drink, although I think it could have been a little sweeter.
Oh.
That's a weird combo.
The pimple has now become a gaping hole. And we top off this entire Korean food tour with the absolute pinnacle, Shake Shack. With that concludes our entire trip to my family's country. Overall, it was an awesome experience, and I'm finally glad I had a chance to visit. Now for the food, I feel like some items Korea definitely excels at, while other things felt little to be desired. So it really depends on what you seek for. But one thing I can say for certain, that Korea beats America hands down, is the taste of the toilet water. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Shout out to all the members. Now click over here if you want to see what I ate in Hawaii.